guys, this is Brown Chubby Bear with Political Bear Nation. Today's video is about Trump's immigration enforcement policies, and more importantly, who's making money off them. We gotta look at the money. Republicans, backed by Trump, are pushing to expand ICE detention facilities across 10 different states. Trump's administration is requesting $45 billion for detention expansion, and a massive chunk of that will go straight for for-profit prisons. These new detention facilities will have the capacity to hold more than 100,000 detainees daily, compared to the peak of 56,000 detainees during Trump's first term. These private prisons already charge more per detainee than public prisons, yet detainees receive far worse treatment in these private prisons. The administration claims this is about saving taxpayer dollars, but here's the math. ICE pays up to $160 per detainee per day at private facilities. Now compare that to around $120 for public prisons. That's not savings, that's corruption. This $45 billion expansion would massively increase ICE's detention capacity, even though nearly half the people detained have no criminal charges at all. These aren't criminals. Many are asylum seekers or immigrants simply waiting on their hearings. Yet conditions inside ICE facilities are overcrowded, neglectful, and downright abusive.
Fueron 4 meses trancados en cuarentena sin poder salir, sin poder casi ejercitarme, nada. No hay doctores, muy pocos servicios médicos.
Throughout the years, we have seen waves of hunger strikes, different sorts of actions that people in detention take to bring attention to the conditions. This is because people in detention are aware that some sort of grievance system exists, but there's absolutely no response to their grievances.
These centers are supposed to be civil detention, not punishment. But in reality, immigrants are often treated worse than convicted criminals in minimum and medium security prisons, and at a higher cost. In public prisons, non-violent inmates are guaranteed a bed, regular meals, medical care, and some dignity. In ICE detention, you're lucky if you get a toilet that works. Conditions in these facilities have long been documented as unsafe and unsanitary, even as private contractors rake in billions. In Miami, detainees were crammed into conference rooms with no toilets. At a facility in New Mexico, 38 men were packed into a space designed for 29 people. Some were forced to eat on the floor. You can forget about showers, toilets, and outdoor time. At many sites, there's not enough staff to supervise basic recreation, so ICE just skips it. At the beginning of April, ICE was holding over 48,000 people in detention centers. That's nearly 20% over the agency's funded capacity. And again, nearly half of those people have no criminal charges whatsoever. Didn't Trump say he was targeting the worst of the worst? In some centers, detainees are served undercooked meat, moldy bread, and portions so small people have gone malnourished. If this happened in a public prison, lawsuits would follow. But in ICE custody, complaints are met with retaliation, often solitary confinement. Think about that. A migrant fleeing violence comes here for safety, complains about rotten food, and ends up locked alone 23 hours a day just for speaking up. That's the American dream, I guess. This isn't an accident. It's what happens when you eliminate accountability. Under Trump, 2 key oversight agencies were shut down: the Department of Homeland Security Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, and the Office of Immigration Detention Oversight. These were the groups responsible for investigating abuse and enforcing standards. Now they're gone. Migrants inside detention facilities have almost no way to report abuse unless a journalist or an activist brings attention to it. So who's profiting from this? Let's start with GEO. They're based in Florida. The company runs private prisons and ICE detention centers across the United States and even internationally. It was founded by George Zoley, an immigrant himself, who saw early on that harsher immigration laws and longer detention times meant big business. The more people ICE detains, the more beds GEO fills, and the more cash they rake in. In 2024, GEO made $32 million in profit. That was last year under Biden. They are projecting anywhere between $87 to $104 million in profit this year under Trump. And here's the kicker. GEO recently secured a 15-year, $1 billion contract with ICE for its Delaney Hall facility in New Jersey. Now, that's expected to generate over $60 million in annual revenue once it's fully operational. This contract was not included in the initial 2025 investor guidance paperwork, so their actual profit this year could exceed the $104 million profit that they have told investors already. A far cry from the $32 million profit they made under Biden last year. But it's not just Trump himself, it's his inner circle and loyalists who now hold lots of power. Take Pam Bondi, Trump's longtime ally and now the Attorney General of the United States. Before joining the administration, she was a paid lobbyist for GEO, one of the largest private prison corporations profiting from ICE detention contracts. That's right, the nation's top law enforcement official once lobbied on behalf of the same company now reaping billions in federal detention funding. Since taking office in January, Bondi has aggressively advanced policies that benefit private prison contractors, from scaling back federal oversight of ICE facilities to supporting expanded detention quotas written into DOJ enforcement guidelines. She also publicly defended the $45 billion ICE detention expenditure plan, calling it a necessary investment in national security, echoing GEO's own talking points almost word for word. It's a stunning conflict of interest. The U.S. Attorney is shaping immigration enforcement policy in ways that directly benefit her former employer. This isn't just unethical, it's the clearest sign yet that the Trump administration is running the Department of Justice like it's a lobbying firm for detention profiteers. Then there's CoreCivic, formerly known as CCA, Corrections Corporation of America. You might have heard that name. In 2016, after years of public backlash and scandals, CCA finally rebranded as CoreCivic in a PR move, but they didn't change their business at all, just their logo. Why the rebrand? Because CCA had become synonymous with abuse, neglect, and forced labor. A 2016 Department of Justice report found that a CCA-run facility had higher inmate deaths, often due to medical neglect and understaffing. One man died as he was literally begging for insulin. Others were paid $1 a day for labor provided under threat of punishment. Just think about that. A for-profit detention center housing migrants with no criminal history who are simply waiting for their day in court are forced to use their labor to save the corporation money under the threat of being thrown into solitary confinement. This is the America you want to live in? CCA, now CoreCivic, told investors they were entering, and I quote, the most significant growth period in the company's history. And Wall Street agreed. After Trump's win, CoreCivic stock jumped 29%, and GEOs rose 42% overnight. And it wasn't just contracts, it was cash for access. GEO was the first company to max out its donation to Trump's 2024 campaign, giving the full $5,000 from its PAC. But that was just the appetizer. They also funneled $500,000 more to a pro-Trump super PAC, and two top executives personally donated another $23,000. Then came the perks. In 2017, GEO moved its annual executive conference to Trump's own golf resort in Miami. GEO executives wined and dined while Trump collected the profits. One of their top lobbyists stayed at Trump's D.C. hotel. It was essentially a bribe in broad daylight. And the cash didn't stop with Trump. GEO's PAC has given over $266,000 to 32 members of the Sedition Caucus. They're called that because they are the Republican lawmakers who voted to overturn the 2020 election following the January 6th riots. That includes people like Senator Rick Scott, who received $500,000 from a PAC supported by GEO. CoreCivic followed suit, spending over $785,000 on mostly Republican campaigns in 2024 alone. These aren't donations, they're investments, and those investments are paying off. In Trump's second term, private prisons are back on top. Oversight is gone. ICE's detention budget has exploded. Contracts are structured with guaranteed minimums, meaning ICE, aka the taxpayers, pay even when beds are empty. During COVID, ICE paid over $500 million for unused beds. NPR found that some facilities are still collecting over $1 million a day for empty space. It's a cash for nothing scam, and now Trump wants $45 billion more. To sell this massive expansion, Republicans have gone all in on fear and lies. They claim immigrants are criminals and invaders. And if you watch this channel, you know that's false. Undocumented immigrants actually commit fewer violent crimes than native-born Americans. A 2020 study from the National Academy of Sciences found that undocumented immigrants were significantly less likely to commit violent crimes than U.S.-born citizens. But facts don't matter in right-wing media. What matters is fear. Take Representative Beth Van Duyne. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she's from Texas. During a House debate, she said criminal illegal immigrants are murdering, raping, and beating people in broad daylight. Come the F on. Now, it's a blatant lie, but it's a common Republican rhetoric.
I rise today to address the ongoing and deadly border disaster that every week continues to take the lives and livelihoods of American citizens all over our country. This has led to horrific crimes being committed throughout America as daughters, sisters, and mothers are brutally attacked, raped, and murdered.
That's not true! So get your facts straight.
Then there's Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's gone full white nationalist. She claims immigration is an invasion orchestrated to replace white Americans. She's constantly promoting a straight-up racist conspiracy theory called the Great Replacement. It's a white nationalist conspiracy theory that falsely claims white people are being deliberately replaced by non-white people like Mexican immigrants, black and brown communities, Muslims, basically anyone who is not white.
Illegal aliens are on the verge of replacing you, replacing your jobs, and replacing your kids in school. And coming from all over the world, they're also replacing your culture. And that's not great for America.
God damn, that was racist.
She even accused the former Department of Homeland Security Secretary of aiding and abetting an invasion. Let's hear some of her most insane moments just for a second.
We cannot protect our own democracy without protecting our elections. That is a fact. The open border is the #1 issue across America in poll after poll.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
You worked as a board member of an NGO that is working in conjunction with other NGOs, which are not only financing the invasion of the country, but also telling illegal aliens to vote in the United States elections. They are telling illegal aliens, non-citizens, to come vote for Joe Biden.
You are made of stupid.
It's treason because these people have declared war on our citizens by raping our women, our children, and murdering people.
You, sir, are an idiot.
Mass deportations cannot happen fast enough. More than a year later, in July 2024, we learned that this administration has lost track of more than 320,000 children. How on earth do we do that?
This is not true. This is not true at all.
And let's not forget about Ted Cruz. He paints the border as a war zone. He blames immigrants for drug violence, and he never uses his real name, Rafael Edward Cruz. Why? Because he wants to sound less like the immigrants he demonizes. Fun fact, Cruz was born in Canada and got U.S. citizenship through his American mother. But sure, let's talk about illegal immigrants. Here's a clip.
It happened because Democrats cynically decided they wanted votes from illegals more than they wanted to protect our children.
Wow! The land of make-believe!
This rhetoric is toxic, but it serves a purpose: to manufacture consent for spending billions on private prisons for illegal immigrants. If enough voters believe every undocumented family is a gang of killers, then a massive detention budget sounds not just reasonable, but necessary. It's a classic fear tactic. In reality, studies have shown undocumented immigrants commit crimes, particularly violent crimes, at lower rates than native-born Americans. But facts don't matter in this narrative. What matters is that politicians like Greene and Cruz keep the public scared. And a scared public lets you get away with inhumane policies and huge contracts for your donors. They continually make the claim that illegal immigrants vote in elections. They do not. The Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank, found only 10 cases involving undocumented immigrants voting since the 1980s. No credible evidence supports claims of widespread illegal immigrant voting. In a previous video, I broke down the actual facts and numbers around illegal immigration, and honestly, I was shocked by how many people didn't know that undocumented immigrants pay taxes. Yeah, some of them do. Around 40% of undocumented workers contribute to federal, state, and local taxes. And beyond that, they help keep labor costs low in industries like agriculture, construction, and hospitality, saving our economy billions, keeping entire sectors from collapsing by preventing a labor shortage that would have occurred if they were not here. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll drop it in the end card. You gotta check it out. All of this hate has a purpose. It justifies the $45 billion giveaway to GEO, CoreCivic, and others. The goal is simple: scare the public and then cash their checks. Even local governments have joined in the scam. In places like Louisiana, counties rent jail beds to ICE for up to $75 per day, 3 times more than what they get from the state. Some even hire so-called bed brokers, yeah, that's a thing, bed brokers, to market their extra cells to ICE. This turns immigrants into walking dollar signs and gives sheriffs and county officials a reason to keep those beds full. This means slow court cases, denied bail, and more laws that criminalize being undocumented are good for business. And at the center of this is the human cost. Last week, a Haitian mother died in ICE custody after being held for months in a for-profit detention center run by GEO. Her crime? Trying to board a domestic flight with the wrong visa. She had no idea. She was arrested, transferred between 3 different facilities, and eventually collapsed after staff ignored her complaints of chest pain. They gave her a pill and told her to lie down. She died that night on the floor in her cell. The same month, a Colombian man died in ICE custody after waiting 10 months for a deportation that never happened. The ACLU found that 95% of the ICE detention deaths that they looked at could have been prevented with just basic medical care. This is profit-driven cruelty, and it's funded by you and me. So what do we do about it? First, let's spread the truth. Share this video. Stay informed. Don't let this issue stay in the shadows. Second, and most importantly, use your voice and use your vote. Every American who cares about justice must stand up. Register to vote, check your registration, and be ready for the 2026 elections. Over 90 million people that could have voted in the last presidential election chose not to. This isn't about left versus right. It's about right versus wrong. It's wrong to jail people en masse for political gain or for profit. It's wrong for our tax dollars to fund a get-rich-quick scheme dressed up as border security, just so a few CEOs can get rich putting innocent people in cages. Keep fighting. Until next time, I'm Brown Chubby Bear for Political Bear Nation.
Where the stories collide, political bears on an untamed ride, roaring through truths, the left and the right, setting the stage for a wild insight. Political Bear Nation ready to dive, where opinion